Hello everyone, and what a fool I am for thinking that we'd get 4 days in Boston of nice weather. It's a little bit overcast, gloomy, a few raindrops. Now I have a very, very tough piece of trivia here. What animated character, and I'll even give you a hint that it's an animal, wants to write a novel and starts every novel with, "It was a dark and stormy night"? Let me know in the comments if you can figure out who that is. So, I bought a battery cutoff switch, battery isolator switch, whatever you want to call it. And I have to figure out where to install that, or I figured out where to install it. I have to figure out how to install it because it's not installing, or it's not fitting in there very well at the moment. It's a very tight space here where I have the battery. So I'm going to make what am I making? It's a brace for the switch that will allow the switch to be removable so I can get the battery in and out. So that's what I'll be doing. First I'm going to warm up a piece of PVC so that I can flatten it out, and then I'll attach that to what's in here already, and then I will attach the battery switch to that. We'll see how it goes. Who knows? Could work, might not. And then I'll be back to square one. So here's the space I'm working in. Here's my piece of PVC that I'm gonna heat up and flatten out a little. Okay, it's flexible now, so I'm gonna have to figure out something heavy. I'm gonna put the battery on top of it until it cools down a little. Maybe I'll put that over here. Heavy battery doesn't flatten it down, I don't know what will. So let's see how this is doing. Yeah, that's fairly flat. Okay, I've got the PVC in here, and I've got the JB welded washer nuts glued to the back, screwed in, waiting for that glue to set. I'm going to do some painting. So if you look down here, you will see all this area that when I glued yesterday got some glue, white glue on it. Also those nuts and bolts around the base of the seats, I want to touch up some spots that I scratched and stuff. Don't have much of the paint left, and before I do all that, I'll be doing my favorite thing that I've been doing lately on this is vacuuming. Always seem to be vacuuming. I would say this can of paint has seen its final paintbrush. That's about as empty as I've ever seen a can of paint. And as you can see, I did all the edges of the underdeck storage areas, redid them, painted them up one last time. So now I am going to go back over here, and I'm going to take the screws out and screw down the battery isolator and put the battery back in and make sure everything works. Okay, let's get these screws out. the nut came out of that securing point. That's not good. I have to figure out what to do with that. JB Weld didn't. Well, this is less than ideal. I have one where the JB Weld didn't hold the nut, and one where the glue didn't hold the damn washer assembly and nut assembly on. Good job, Gorilla Glue. What am I gonna do? Okay, I gotta think about this for a few, figure out how I'm gonna fix this situation. Well, it's all hooked up. Turn this on, I hit the button. The light over there went on. But the light on the little switch here, little light on the switch here is not going on, and I have no idea why. But it's working. Good morning, everyone. How are you? I was trying to think of some interesting trivia, but my brain's not really functioning at the moment. So I'm going to go back to an old standard I always ask. I got the answer to this right on a contest and won it. What this question is: what food never spoils? It was found in a 5,000-year-old Egyptian tomb. Still good, still able to be used and eaten. It's a fun one. Anyways, today's mission is twofold. One, so when I filled in these seams, they're not exactly smooth. They're not always even with each other. So I'm going to be taking chisel, a hammer possibly, and trying to cut some of these down and smooth them out so that I don't have to sand forever. Because when I'm done with today, I will be sanding for quite a bit of time as it's going to be. Because I'm going to sand this entire deck so that I can have things as smooth as possible. But anyways, after I do the chiseling and the smoothing down of seams and stuff, I will be mixing up my sawdust and glue mix and putting that down to even things out as much as possible. Anyways, it's going to be a boring day for you guys, but I'm going to film what I do, and you guys can probably watch a couple of fast forward montages. I'm going to try and do this as much as possible by hand so that I'm not overdoing it. But if I need the hammer, I will. I think I'm going to have to use the hammer. Of course, when I'm done all this and before I do my laying down of the sawdust glue mix, You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to do that thing I love to do, that I do more than anything on this boat. Vacuum! Anyways, I'll be doing this for the next while. I'm not going to bore you by filming it all, but you get the idea of what I'm working on, and guess I'll be back to you when I'm done. Let's try and mix up some of this homemade wood filler. I looked online some more and it said there's no rhyme or reason. You just kind of mix it till you get a consistency you want. Okay. Mix this up and see where it gets me. Good news is if I run out of sawdust here, I can go up front and get some more. Well, definitely too much sawdust in this first batch. We'll pour a little more of this in. Oh yeah, that's getting to a much better consistency. Kind of remind me of chopped ham salad. I don't know if you ever had the kind where they basically mince it up, grind it up like this, and mix it with mayonnaise. It's kind of what it looks like. Definitely doesn't smell like it. Okay, let's go give it a shot. What's nice is that with just sawdust and glue, it will be sandable. Good morning, everyone. Well, hey, it's Boston. Guess what it did last night and this morning? It rained. It's partially overcast right now. So I laid down all my wood, sawdust mixed wood filler, and it's doing good. Some of it's dry, some of it's not yet. The stuff that was covered by the tarp didn't seem to get enough air, hasn't seemed dry yet. But I will be sanding that as soon as it's dry. Now, I did go to the store, and if you remember, I had this as I was trying to tie down my battery cutoff switch. The problem with that is, as you can see, it's a flathead. And flatheads suck. So I went to Home Depot and I bought some of the same size with Phillips head. So I'm going to replace that one that's in there right now with a Phillips head. Oh, trivia. I almost forgot to give you a little trivia. Where, and for bonus points, when was the first official recorded UFO sighting made? I know there are things in the past, like supposedly in Jesus' time or Leonardo da Vinci's time, they saw him, but the first actual recorded UFO sighting. How recorded? I guess it was officially made to a paper or the police or something, but yeah, fun trivia for you. The next couple hours of work, although it might not be linear time, because I have to wait for certain areas to dry and harden up. We'll be sanding the entire deck and all the sideboards and everything, trying to get this finished and ready for finish. I'm going to be putting down a sealer on the top, which will also hopefully act as a bit of a leveler, and then, you know, at some point the paint. But that's what's going to be happening, and I know you guys don't want to watch me sand, so I'm just going to do it. In what sounds like the start to a bad TV sitcom. The other day but the truth is, a couple days ago, I was working on laying the deck down. I was drilling a hole I needed. Bit slipped, went through the hull of the kayak, up under here. So, I have to figure out a way to flip the kayaks over so that the other side's up, so I have access to that hole. This could be a fun process. Okay, you won't see me for a bit as I have to go behind the kayak to let him down. Nah, that wasn't supposed to happen. Now I just gotta think of how I'm gonna hook it up over here. As you can see, I've got the boat up in the other direction. I'm gonna go under there and weld that hole closed. You've seen me do this 1,000 times. Well, okay, you've seen me do it 3 or 4. Regardless, I'm not gonna film it. Also, it's boring. Boat is back on the ground, hole underneath is repaired. Time to get back to sanding. I've sanded down the deck. Most of the seams are good, some of them still not 100% dry. But I've sanded down the deck and most of it's good. Now I'm going to take my vacuum, turn it around, blow off the deck, and then I'm going to do what I know you guys think is my favorite thing. Come on, say it with me. Vacuum! So what's next? Unfortunately, it all unraveled when it blew off the table, but this is neoprene foam weather stripping insulation. I'm going to lay that on the insides of all the well edges, and then what's that going to allow me to do? I can put the individual covers on, just rest them on there, and should be 99% water tight at that point, so I don't have to worry about putting a topper over it at night. Well, my last act of defiance for today was putting on the roof sealant as a sealant for the deck. Next step, I think I'm going to attach the transoms and touch up the seat bases. But that's for another day. Hello my friends, how are you doing today? Welcome back to the next episode. Or just the next day actually, of boat build filming. First, your trivia that I like to throw out. Who was George Lucas's first selection to be Han Solo. No looking it up. Okay, today we're going to be attaching things like the transoms and the navigation lights and building a fuel tank holding pen and attaching the fuel pump. I was an idiot, not thinking, just plain stupid, but for some reason I filled in the holes for the here for the trolling motor transom, so I have to re-drill them. Good news is they were only filled with sealant or caulking. Okay, we'll put a little sealant and glue down here on it so that it don't go nowhere. Besides the Nike. Forgot to put the washer in. Now, the less than desirable part, I have to go underneath here to do this. I need some light. So as it turns out, I apparently set this side of the bolt holes beneath a support piece I added while I was working on the deck. So instead of bolts, I'm driving in lag bolts instead of, nut and bolt. I'm driving in lag bolts to hold down this side. And because I'm not 100% sure I trust those fully, I'm going to add one more bolt in the middle. Now I gotta find a friggin' 12mm again. See, that's good. Now we can hook up the bell lights. Awesome. It's secure. Okay, I'll be putting the other one in, and I'll be caulking around the edges, and we'll be done. As you can see, I've got the lights going. I've got the trolling motor transom on, but I did make a mess, and you know what that means. It's time to vacuum. Time to put the main transom on. Let's lay out some adhesive. This is not gonna be much fun. As you can see, I have the rear transom in. As I edit this episode, I realize that it's already 30 plus minutes long, so I'm going to end it here with having gotten the rear transom on, and we'll pick up what I'm doing in the next episode. So remember, like, comment, subscribe, and may all your adventures be safe and fun.